Have you ever swirled a glass of red wine and just really stopped to wonder, how does it get that incredible color? Well, today we're going to uncork the science behind one of the most beloved drinks on the planet. I mean, just look at that. There is something so captivating about a perfect glass of red wine, isn't there? That deep ruby color, all those complex smells, it really is a whole experience in a glass. You might think it's some kind of magic, but it's actually this amazing blend of biology and chemistry. So where does all that character really come from? The answer might surprise you. It's not actually from the juice. That's right. The secret to red wine's color, its very soul, is locked away inside the grape skins. You see, almost all grape juice, even from dark red grapes, is basically clear. The real magic only happens when that clear juice gets to spend some serious quality time with the skins. And this critical step is called maceration. The best way to think about it is like steeping a tea bag. The grape skins are the tea bag and the juice is the hot water. The longer you let them soak together while everything's fermenting, the more you pull out all the good stuff, the color, the flavor compounds, and the tannins. This is what defines the wine's entire personality. And this isn't just some artsy choice by the winemaker, it's pure science. This quote here mentions polyphenolic components. Now that's a mouthful, but it's just the scientific name for all the stuff in the skins that gives wine its color and a huge chunk of its flavor. Without them, you'd basically have, well, white wine. Okay, so keeping the juice in contact with the skins is absolutely critical. But here's the kicker. The process of fermentation itself creates this fascinating challenge that every winemaker has to deal with. So as the yeast in the tank eats up all the sugar and turns it into alcohol, it also releases a massive amount of carbon dioxide gas. All those bubbles race to the surface, and they act like a giant life raft, pushing all the solids, those precious skins, seeds, and pulp, right to the top of the tank. And this thick, dense layer that forms is known as the cap. And you can see the problem right away, can't you? All that amazing color and flavor is now trapped in the cap, just sitting on top, totally separated from the juice it's supposed to be enriching. So the winemaker's entire job during this phase is to solve this one big problem. So how do they fix it? Well, to get all that good stuff out of the cap and back into the liquid, they have to get physical. It is quite literally time to remix the entire tank. The objective is pretty simple. Get those skins back in contact with the juice. But there are several ways to do it, and each technique affects the final wine in a really different way. So let's take a look at the three most common methods. First up, and probably the most widely used technique, is pumping over. You drain the juice from a valve at the bottom of the tank and then use a hose to spray it all over the top of the cap. This breaks up that dense layer and completely drenches the skins, ensuring you get that continuous extraction. Next, we've got a much more dramatic method called delestage. For this, you drain the entire tank of its juice, leaving the cap to just compress under its own weight at the bottom. Then, you pump all that juice right back on top, completely submerging it in a huge splash. It's a very powerful way to get maximum extraction. And finally, there's the most traditional method of all, pigeage, or simply punching down. This is where you use a tool, or sometimes historically your feet, to physically push the cap down into the juice. It's a much gentler process, which can be really important for protecting the delicate skins of certain grapes. So while all this remixing is happening, the winemaker is also playing the part of a scientist, constantly monitoring the vital signs of the fermentation. You can think of it like they have a dashboard of key metrics they are tracking every single day. And two of the most critical dials on that dashboard are temperature and density. Temperature is huge. You have to keep it in that sweet spot between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius for most reds to make sure the yeast is happy and producing the right aromas. And density, well, that's basically the progress bar for the whole fermentation. And the main tool for checking that progress bar is a densitometer. It's actually pretty clever. Sugar makes juice dense and heavy. Alcohol is much lighter. So as the yeast converts sugar into alcohol, the liquid gets less dense, and this little instrument sinks lower and lower. By taking daily readings, the winemaker can track exactly how fast the fermentation is moving. Now let's zoom in on the microscopic heroes of this whole story, the yeast. They are the tiny little engines of fermentation, and their life cycle, believe it or not, sets the rhythm for the entire process. Now, while there are wild yeasts that live on grape skins, most winemakers add specific cultured yeast strains. Why do they do that?
Well, it's all about control. It means you get a predictable, clean fermentation, you prevent spoilage from any bad microbes that might be hanging around, and you can even pick specific yeast to improve the aroma and flavor of the final wine. And that yeast population follows a pretty clear timeline. First, they adapt to their new sugary home. Then comes the exponential phase. This is the big party, where they're eating sugar and multiplying like crazy. This is when most of the action happens. Eventually, as the food runs out, the party slows down, they enter a stationary phase, and finally, the fermentation ends, and the yeast settles to the bottom. So, the main takeaway here is that making great red wine is an incredibly active and intentional process. Every single decision, which yeast to use, how often to punch down the cap, what temperature to keep things at, is a deliberate choice made by the winemaker to guide the fermentation and craft the final wine. So, the next time you pour a glass of red wine, maybe you'll just pause for a second and appreciate the incredible journey it's been on. That color, that flavor, it's all thanks to this carefully orchestrated dance of science and skill. Pretty amazing when you think about it, right?